Hello and welcome to YourTown television program. I'm your host, Paula Joy MacNab. And as always, I have amazing guests today. And I'm going to jump right in with one of my most intriguing and important topics on the Monterey Peninsula, which is water. And I feel very honored that we have in the studio today our guest, David Stoldt, who is the general manager of the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District. He's taken a few minutes out of his busy schedule to come and talk to us, inform us, educate us, and help us work more effectively as citizens in our community with this precious commodity, which is water. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm delighted that you're here. I really do mean it. I'm quite honored because I know you're a very busy man and you're racing right out of here after this, so we'll cut straight to the chase. And I asked you a few minutes ago, what made you passionate about water? Why are you passionate about this subject?
Well, you know, it's rarefied here on the Monterey Peninsula. It's not everywhere else, but in the arid West, water is the key to life and, you know, the things that we want to do. I began my career in an investor-owned utility on the energy side, and then kind of worked my way into financing large-scale public projects. So I've always had an infrastructure and a public passion.
Right.
But water was part of that work back in the 90s. I actually, on the financing side, was an investment banker and helped finance the Pebble Beach Reclamation Project that irrigates all the golf courses and Stevenson School. And did some other things locally, and I began to learn how important water was to this community.
Right. What was that great film years ago with Jack Nicholson? What was it?
Chinatown.
Chinatown, the water.
Yeah.
That was pretty dramatic.
Yeah, the LA water grab from Lake Owens.
Yeah. So move forward here and with your career. So you got into water management.
Yeah, and actually did some work for this district from the private sector years and years ago, and then kind of pursued a different career for a while, and then came back to it.
Great. Well, we're lucky to have you.
Well,
so everyone, and as a real estate professional, I deal with this question all the time, and I really try, Dave, to be accurate in my information and refer to water management when I don't have the answers. But I'd like to spend a few minutes just edifying the public about, you know, there's such a big deal about water here. So,
and why is it so complex?
And why is it so complex?
Yeah, so a little bit of history. In the mid to late 80s, number of people, number of groups started to notice that the Carmel River was under stress, drying up, backing up, affecting habitat and wildlife. And you know, essentially the state water board said, well, that water is a river flowing underground, and you don't have a right to all that water, you being California American Water, who was pumping it. And so in 1995, they issued an order that said you need to get off the river, that you really only have rights to about 1/3 of what you're taking. And that was bolstered in 2009 with a cease and desist order. And then about 1/3 of our water came from the ground and seaside, and that went through the courts in an adjudication. So our two primary water supplies were subject to regulatory or court-ordered cutbacks. So we, the Water Management District, through that time period became expert water counters. You know, it's all water accounting. And we basically set a series of rules that make us water neutral. So we allocated the last amount of water that was available in the early 90s. And we said until there's new supply, that's it. We have to live within our means.
Live within our means. What a concept.
Yeah, exactly.
What a concept, Dave.
Yeah. Check my credit card debt.
We won't go there.
But it's a little bit the same way with water. We were borrowing against water that we didn't really have. And so you overdraft a groundwater basin, you overdraft a river. And so we had to bring those back into balance. And to do that, we said, sorry, Mr. Homeowner, if you want to expand your kitchen or your bathroom, you're going to need water from your city. Or Mr. Business Owner, if you want to expand your restaurant, you're going to need water from your city. It's called an allocation. Well, what's happened through time is most of the cities have allocated all their water that we gave them. Monterey's basically at zero, Pacific Grove, Carmel. So then we said, Mr. Homeowner, you might be able to expand if you can establish a water credit, a permanent abandonment of your existing use of water, which you could do through, you know, a high efficiency clothes washer, a high efficiency dishwasher, an ultra high efficient toilet.
Right.
And we would count those fixtures and we would know how much water they generally use.
Right.
And so you could create a credit and then apply that credit to an expansion. We weren't so draconian that you couldn't get a second bathroom done. We did recognize that, you know, it's a convenience. You're not going to be bringing more people in for a second bathroom. So we came up with what's called the second bathroom protocol. So that does allow people to just add a bathroom.
And is that peninsula wide?
It is.
Okay.
So all 6 cities in the unincorporated county area of the Carmel Valley and Pebble Beach and what have you. So we have to count water until we have that new supply that kind of frees everybody up.
Right, right, got it. So let's talk about that new supply. I was going to save this to the end, but you've intrigued me here. So,
well, so there's 2 efforts afoot for new supply. One is it's called Pure Water Monterey, and it's an advanced water purification project, but it only gets us about 1/3 of the needed new supply.
Okay.
So to back up that project, and well, let me back up. That'll come online in approximately the middle of 2019, so about a year away. Everything's under construction.
Right.
And then there's a desalination plant that will be built and owned and operated by California American Water.
Right.
The final environmental impact report for that came out last week. We're expecting a proposed decision or permission granted from the Public Utilities Commission sometime in June or July, and then we'll know where that stands. There have been threatened lawsuits already.
Exactly.
You know, I think, you know, we on the Monterey Peninsula often have a little bit of fear that water will bolster growth, or in this case, I think there's some concern over the impact on groundwater up in the North Marina area. And perhaps on the peninsula, we also have a little fear of success. You know, we've been so close so often. But we're expecting that decision to be made this summer, and then if it's going to be sued, we'll know that by the end of the year.
So Dave, people are so passionate about this issue, and I see signs all over. We all see signs all over, you know, vote this, no this, yes this, and so forth. Talk to us, if you can, about both sides of those issues, because I think quite honestly, people get very impassioned about issues and they may not understand all of the facts. They get the sound bites. We're in a sound bite society.
Right.
And I really think it's important to just, what really does this mean in the big picture, not just the sound bite, not just today, but what does it mean for our future, our children, our children's children?
There's kind of 2 issues here. One, let's focus first on water supply, because this unsubstantiated fear that replacing the unlawful diversions from the river and from the groundwater basin will somehow foster growth, I believe is unfounded. In other words, just having a new supply is not going to create more water that can suddenly be used elsewhere. It's only replacing the unlawful diversions and providing water for legal lots of record and folks who've been unable to do anything. Nevertheless, there's always land use and environmental organizations who are concerned. And this plant was, or this combination, this portfolio of projects was designed and sized to not create any water for growth.
Right, exactly.
Now the other controversial or interesting issue right now is Public Water now looking to municipalize the investor-owned utility California American and have it become run by the government, and which is, you know, 85% of all water in California is publicly owned. You know, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, East Bay Mud, you know, these are public agencies providing water service. And we're, the district, we're relatively neutral, but there's a voter-driven initiative which qualifies for the ballot likely in November, which would then charge our agency with acquiring California American. So if it's the will of the voters, we'll do it. We'll do a feasibility study, determine if there are savings to the customers, define feasibility, I guess, and the folks who are supporting that initiative are very passionate about it.
Yes.
And they've got a variety of reasons to do it. Hopefully, in their minds, it would control the growth in your water bill. It would keep money here locally, things like that. Our district hasn't formed any opinion on those values yet. And that would happen if the vote passes. Then we would undertake the feasibility study. Then we would hold public workshops on really what do we want, what is feasible, and go from there.
Right, exactly. And who is water management? Are you run by?
Right. So we were created legislatively in 1977, so we've been around 40 years. We have three charges, if you will. One is to help develop water supply. So example, in 1995, we had a dam project, fully approved, fully vetted, would have taken care of all our problems, but the voters voted it down. The second area is environmental mitigation. So as I mentioned earlier, in the 80s, people noticed the river was suffering.
Right.
So we have been mitigating for the extraction of water by the water utility since really the late 80s. And that includes rescuing threatened species of fish, building or restoring habitat, things like that. And then the third area is conservation activities. And you know, we offer shower heads and faucet aerators and
tell people how they can get those. I think that's great information.
yeah, come up to our front desk in our office in Ryan Ranch.
Where's your office?
Yeah, it's Ryan Ranch. It's 5 Harris Court.
Right.
Very accessible building with friendly people at the front desk.
Very friendly people.
Absolutely. And then we can also provide guidance on other things. We do pass ordinances. So a few years ago, we required all commercial businesses to retrofit to a certain level.
That's what I was going to ask you, is how does this affect business versus, you know,
yeah, everybody's
Joe and Jane
kind of
homeowner?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because the homeowners always complain about how invasive some of our policies are. And again, we talked about counting water and why that's important.
Right.
It's the same way for businesses.
Right, of course.
A number of business owners have said, you know, retail is dying in the downtowns. I need to put in a restaurant. And unfortunately, we said, well, retail only uses this much water.
And restaurants
use this much water.
Right.
And so unless you've got documented history of a restaurant having been in there in the early 90s, you're kind of stuck with how much water your businesses have used until we get a new supply.
So, Dave, if there was a restaurant in a location
Yeah.
in the early 90s or thereabouts, they would have had the water allocated? Is that what you're
Exactly.
saying?
We say it's a documented use. And so
Okay.
we've had a couple of buildings that have had nightclubs and, you know, as the Fort Ord closed and young people kind of disappeared and the nightclubs closed, that prior use, we always say a property owner always has the right to restore a prior use.
Of course.
And, you know, it's a property right issue.
Right.
So if it's documented or if we can document it, then yes, that higher water usage can occur. But unfortunately, if not, you know, if it's always been a mattress shop or an office supply shop or what have you.
Don't use a lot of water in the mattress shops.
They do not.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
it's really tough to say, okay, go ahead and put it in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And so people have to live under that until we find a new water supply.
Sure, sure. And talk to us about buying water.
Sure.
That's a very, people say, can I buy water? How much does it cost? What do I get? How much do I need to spend to
great
add a
question.
bathroom?
Yep.
I get that all the time.
Yeah, so there's only 4 places water comes from. That initial allocation that was given to the cities in the
Yes.
early 90s,
Yeah.
a credit that we've talked about, an entitlement, or possibly moving a credit from one location to another. So buying water is entitlement. So there are a few places where individual projects have occurred. One example would be the Pebble Beach Reclamation Project.
Right.
That was done in the 90s, but it freed up like 1,000 acre-feet of water.
So what is an acre foot?
I was just going to say, an acre
get
foot.
this question all the time.
Think of a football field with a foot of water on it.
Okay.
And it serves, you know, roughly 5 single-family residential homes for a year.
Okay.
So we freed up all this potable supply by irrigating those golf courses and ball fields with recycled water.
Okay.
And so within the Del Monte Forest, that water is available for sale to residential owners. It's about $250,000 per acre foot.
Per acre foot. So how many bathrooms or kitchens, or how do people
Yeah.
understand this number?
Well, let me give you another couple examples. There's a big project which Big Sur Land Trust is trying to restore some land at the old Odella farm.
Right, right.
There was a water right established there, and there's a company or an LLC called Malpass.
Right.
It's selling water to Carmel Valley residents and the city of Carmel.
Uh-huh.
So each of these places have a specific place of use.
Yes.
If you don't live there, you can't buy it.
Right.
That's about $240,000 an acre foot.
Right.
So homeowners are coming in and buying a tenth of an acre foot,
Right. Yeah.
$24,000.
That's right.
And that'll get you an expansion of your kitchen and your bathroom, and probably more water than you need in some cases.
Okay.
Vacant lots in Carmel are being entitled by purchasing 0.2 acre feet. You know, a small cottage in Carmel could probably go the entire year at 0.2 to
Right.
0.3.
Right.
So if you've got a lot that's unbuildable, this is an opportunity then to get a
Exactly.
meter set and make it buildable.
How long does that process take, David?
Well, several months. The longer process is actually getting your plans drawn and
Right.
coming in and
True.
you know doing the actual building permit process. But yeah, you in effect go to, and let's take Malpasso. You go to the Malpasso LLC, say I want to buy some water. Here's how much. Here's my parcel number.
Yes.
There's an assignment agreement that goes to the title on
Right.
that parcel,
Right.
and then you come into the district when you have your plans,
Yeah.
and we'll issue you a permit based on that
Great.
assignment agreement.
Great.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it works, but it doesn't help people in the jurisdictions that don't have those entitlements.
Right.
And that's a problem. So
And those jurisdictions that don't have those entitlements are.
City of Monterey is a good example.
Yeah.
So they have to sit and wait,
Yeah.
or hope that we find some incremental supply that
Right.
would allow them to reallocate some more water.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that will happen. Dave, this has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for your time. I know that I have so many more questions I want to ask, but I think we're out of time. And so, tell our viewing audience how they can reach you and your department with questions.
Well,
Phone number or
yeah,
email
so
or
831-658-5650 will
Right.
get them as close as they can get to me.
Okay.
We also, there's a couple of websites. We have a website, mpwmd.net,
Okay.
and then there's waterinfo.org for some conservation activities.
Great.
But there's links from our website to a lot of other things as well.
You've got a great website.
Yeah.
Thank you again for your time.
Well, thanks
I
for having
really,
me.
really appreciate it. It's been a delight. You've been watching YourTown television program. I'm your host, Paula Joy MacNab. Join us again.